Hello! I will talk about what I did to do a lot of the effects for the Lethal Company video within this video, which is pretty cool. So, here's the Lethal Company stuff, right? Pretty cool, right? So, all of these effects are done with the compositing view. So let's go hop over to the compositing view. So if you look in the 3D viewport, right? If you disable the compositor, this is what it normally looks like. It's kind of boring. I mean, it looks good, but it could look a little bit better. So if you put on always, I wish it was just as simple as this. You know, you just put on always and then you just get the lethal effects, but I'll have to show you how I have it set up in the compositor. So this is if you've not done Blender stuff before, this is a node tree for the compositor, and you can get to here by getting into the compositor view. Normally this isn't shown here, so you have to split open a half window in order to get the viewport over here. You used to have to render out different frames and then it would composite after you would render a frame, but now they have the viewport compositor, which you get to by pressing this drop down and then putting this on, so you can kind of preview what's going on. So my nodes, I've split up my nodes into different node groups. So basically the whole effect with the cell shading, which is kind of like how there's different light values, how it goes from like this beige color to this lighter color, there's like that banding. So that's cell shading. So basically I took all the logic for that and I put it within this color crunch node, and I can go inside of here, and you'll notice that it takes vector input. For whatever reason, I would have it take color input, but I mean, I could have it take color input if I wanted to, but all I'm doing is I'm separating the RGB values. So this is RGB, but for some reason, within the compositor, there's no separate by RGB. Like if you go in the shading view and you go to separate color, you can do this. It has this node. That's something that they should add to the compositor, I think, because then you can have like your red, green, blue values inside the compositor. I don't know why they don't have it. They don't have it, but they have XYZ, and that somehow works. So you separate the red, green, and blue values. And if you don't know that, when you have a pixel on the screen, there's red, green, and blue values. I don't know how far down I have to go in this tutorial, but you separate the red, green, blue values, and basically you'll notice that I have these cell color nodes. These are kind of optional. I just have them here. Like, all that I have is like color ramps. My color ramp basically takes a factor, or like a number from 0 to 1, and given that number, it'll map it from 0 here to 1 here, and it maps it to these colors. Now, I set mine to constant, and then if you hit the plus button, you can create these midtones in between. You can keep doing this. You can start creating these midtones. Now, I didn't want to have to do this for every one of them, and also if I go like Control D, and I like move this over to the side, then that doesn't duplicate. I wonder, can I Alt D this? Yeah, even if you Alt D, it doesn't work. And Alt D is usually linked to duplicate. So you can't do that. But what I did instead is I created a node. that just has a color ramp inside of it. And in this, it's just that color ramp with the different light values. And because I put it in its own node, these all use the same node for all the different colors. And if I change how the shading works on one of these, it'll notice how it moves that band over. You can kind of see it. I go like this. And it'll do that for the red, green, and blue values when you have it factored out into its own node. And then it's kind of like a function in programming. So then you combine the XYZ colors into combine XYZ for whatever reason, and then you go out of here, and that's your color crunch node. And there's some other effects that I have on here, like I have a sort of sharpness effect going on. So how I do that, it doesn't have to have the color crunch node. You could do this with any image. You take an image, you blur it by a certain amount, and you'll get a blurred out image. And you take this blurred image and you take the difference of that. So this is a mix RGB node, mix color. You mix this with the original image, then you get a difference. This cool thing. And this marks like where all the edges of the different color values are. So if there's like a really bright value and there's a really dark value, it's going to have this edge. And then what I do is I take the original image and I subtract it with the mix RGB node, and you can get this factor and you can change how much it's doing it by. So you can make it more and less, and you just put this all to the composite view. And you don't like that for some reason when you do all of this stuff with the vector doesn't take the alpha value, because each pixel has an RGB and an alpha, which is like the transparency of the image. When you do separate XYZ on an RGB value, it doesn't get the alpha, so you have to take the alpha from here, plug it into here. You could probably just put a value 1 or something and put it into here, and that would probably work, but this thing's here, so I might as well use it. I'll show you some other stuff on what I did here. So there's this great material. I did not get this from like textures.com or something. This is a procedural material. So essentially how it works, you get texture coordinate node, you take the object coordinates, and you pipe the object coordinates. You don't have to. Let me get rid of this real quick. You don't have to, but I put it into mapping so I can change positioning and stuff of the texture, but you don't really have to. You can plug this straight into your wave textures. So you get your wave textures, and I do object because object space is just better. And you do X, Y, and I have this node over here to make it so both of the scale properties on the wave textures have the same value, and I can scale this up and down evenly. Then you do a mix RGB from the color out, and you get this sort of texture. And I'll get rid of the compositor so you can see what it actually looks like. So you get this grid pattern, and you take that grid pattern and you put it through a color ramp with a constant interpolation, and you get the alpha for the grate. And then I put invert because how the bump node works, lighter values are higher up, darker values are lower down, and originally it's darker, so you got to invert. So you get something like that. And then I pump this into the normal map, and I can make this less strong if I wanted to. But I think that it kind of shines more when it's like this, and also it's supposed to be cylindrical, so that's why I do that way. Then I just have this metallic texture. I put that in normal, put that in alpha, and now you have that great texture. Not too much else to go over. This is done in Eevee for render times. I mean, there's like indirect lighting stuff, there's other stuff, and there's some animation stuff. Oh yeah, there's the camera motion with the track 2, and I animate the influence of this. The animation's kind of screwed up because I was getting thumbnails, but oh well. Also, I did not rip this from the game. I found this on Sketchfab from somebody else who ripped it. So, and I'll put that in the description. I don't know if it's gonna get taken down or something. I don't know what the copyright on this game is gonna be, if they're gonna just be kind of lax about it. I don't know. But basically how I did this, and this guy, I modeled this guy. I didn't. I just got like a low poly man model, severed his head off, made a coil, and that's about it.